It was kind of a glitch with the YouTube version.
Hello, artist test. Hello, artist testing. What's up?
What's up?
What's up, dude? We're gonna do the little drawing, aren't we? Well, I am. You're just gonna sit back and be like, "Work,
Yeah,
you late artist."
I'm just gonna hold the whip and talk to you. No, I
The
appreciate
licorice
it.
whip. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining the stream, man. It's always cool having co-streams.
Super fun. So what we're gonna do, man, is we're gonna take some concept art that you were like, let's make that, and we're gonna draw a reverse side of this top car here. So these were the options, and this is the one you decided on. Sorry, folks. And the way it goes. So we'll fill that with white. And we're gonna take this, and we can just copy the screen there and give ourselves a template. You see if what is it if I go vertically. So I did this initial backside sketch a while back just to give myself like a guide. I don't think I measured it up to newer wheel proportions, so I'm just gonna do a little stretchy do here.
Nice. Oh yeah, because I kind of like shrunk it in a little bit. I didn't want that too long. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of cutesy now. It's like it feels good.
Fine. You'll see I have a slightly different way of working. So what we're going to do here is block in some of these items that weren't originally in. So let's just take this. You can have that. So I'm just trying to look at that as a visual reference, and then we'll take these items which are new. Kind of block them in there. And then we'll go to our AI art generator program and type in "finish all my work for me," and right, and then we're done.
That's how you
and then
do
we
it.
Go,
Yeah.
I invoice you, and then I go to Boomers. You know, or I get some Papa Murphys, and
yeah, you're good to go.
yeah. Can't wait for the AI to take over. I can stop working. I can just sit back and be like, AI, do all the work, man. Never gonna have to. Someone was telling me that, they're like, hey man, you worried about losing your job? I'm like, bro, I've lost every. I got into, like, when I got into art professionally, I got into clothing. So like I've already been, and then I went from clothing to video game magazines.
Oh no!
Back into clothing, and then got ran out of clothing, and then into video game concept art for mascot games at Activision. And how'd that go? And so pretty much every career I've ever taken, I've been made redundant. Like there ain't nothing new about this.
Got the back.
But the idea that any art director is going to sit back and wait for you to just keep clicking randomly generate something until it magically appears it's really funny to me. Like I can't wait to see that happen. I've been waiting for art directors to just take whatever I hand them and they'd be like, oh well. Like,
good enough. I'll just take it out.
Yeah.
That roughly describes what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of blocking out the back of Tox card and.
Yeah, I'm sort of figuring out these little spots. Like, I tend to like do these things called like blobbies. It's kind of like a form of silhouette rendering.
Mm-hmm.
The colors don't matter. I just grab whatever color so I can see things clearly. So I can just start to blob in shapes, and then I can work in details after the fact. Like, it just lets me kind of like layer things and not have to like spend a lot of time drawing a million lines to erase for 3. Like, that's some shit I can't stand, bro. Like, that ain't for me. Like, this process may take a little longer but in the long run, when you add everything up, I get exactly what I want out of it. And there isn't like, if I could just draw that line just perfectly, it would all come together. So like, I don't know. Like, I know, like, when I worked at art departments or even at different studios, artists kind of see how I work and they're like, that's weird. And I'm like, I know.
It's weird.
I know, it's weird. But what it really is like my mind, it really like centers on composition and shape design, right? And proportion. Like, I can't get around it. Like, it's just what I see the most. So like, when I'm over here, like, this is where I'm spending the most of my time doing. Oh shit, I got that backwards. So this goes this way. So this will go back, right? You gotta like think. I'm already a little dyslexic, so you gotta like think in reverse.
Yeah, like how would like the wires connect there in the back?
Right, this goes back and then it comes
a lot to
up.
consider.
Yeah. But I just want to make certain, like, I'm spending my time like getting everything that needs to be in. But the cool part is, like, this part, it's really more like puzzle solving, less than drawing. So like, not spending a ton of time. Like, man, I just gotta learn how to draw cars. Like, how do you draw a wheel in perspective, right? You could spend forever, right, doing like this stuff, right? And then like coming top low. Like, I know how to do everything the hard way, but like, I could also just come over here and just look at that. And wherever I move that shape, right? Like, it's just a circle, but wherever I put the black, it changes perspective.
Right. Nice and quick. Block out. Like, that's cool.
See?
Yeah.
Like, so once you get your head around that part, then you're like, oh, it is faster. Like, it's ultimately just like helps me get to the point that I need to get to.
That's really cool, because it kind of reminds me of like blocking out stuff in ZBrush. Just like being able to block things out really quickly is just makes art a lot more effective and your time a lot more effective. Just, yeah.
My time is being utilized. I'm not redoing things. Like,
right.
Like, I think if you, like, I've shown you art that I can't, you know, stuff that I'm working on even now, like, and stuff I've not been able to publish. Like, I don't spend a lot of time getting like ground one rewrite notes. You know what I mean? Like, redraw, and you didn't draw that right. Like, it's just not. It's kind of impossible if you know how to like just like blob everything in right. But you gotta like know perspective, and you have to be able to see it, and it's very similar to like 3D modeling, like, in a way, you know. Like, I really wish I could get an AI program that could just take these blobbies and then model around it. You know, like, when that happens, I'll become like one of the greatest artists on the internet if I'm still fucking alive. Like you know, like, it'll probably happen right when I hit like 70. Like, son of a.
It finally happened.
Yeah, me. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Work now that I'm 70. Great.
Hopefully you'll have to do work when you're 70.
Tell that to Miyazaki. Still working on Boro, right? Still waiting for Boro. I'm looking forward to it. Man. 2D animation's a slow process, man.
I can only imagine. That sounds pretty painstaking to me animating in 2D. Yeah.
So there are artists that just draw perfectly. I've never been that guy. So like I let that illusion go like in high school.
Just perfect strokes every time.
Or they can just draw whatever they see in their head perfectly. Like it's always I've never been that person. It took me a long time. Like I used to draw a million lines to get to where I was getting to, and then like when I learned what a light board was, I was able to like take markers and like I got markers in a light board around 2000, 2001, and I was like, oh, I never had one of these. So like I was able to like start to just blob in shapes with markers and then light board over, and then several years later, I get a Cintiq and I'm able to just do it all this way.
Oh man, yep. Big drawing tablet step.
Yeah, which that actually for me came across because like I was still doing my finishes with pencil and stuff for like illustration for comics and stuff, and I got like insane carpal tunnel, like because I would press so hard to get a clean line.
I'm a hard presser too. I totally dig in.
Yeah, but this drawing digitally with the Cintiq has completely eliminated that from my problem. I don't have that problem anymore. Like I don't draw. I draw very lightly now. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this like the arm thing, and so if I push too hard, it literally just rotates on me. I just can't push that hard.
Nice.
It just swivels. Yeah, I've had to put my arm closer to my body so it doesn't like move too much on me. I'm not stretching across my entire desk anymore.
Oh, so what I got for that was, here's my left hand. It's right here. Is on my Cintiq. I have a keyboard that attaches to the top.
Oh.
And then I got these yoga pads. Right, these are for yoga.
Yeah.
I just stacked them up for my elbow, and so it sits right here vertically.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so okay.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
I gotta tell you, man, it's so much nicer than the other, because I still need my keyboard commands and stuff. Like I can't. I'm like one with the keyboard. There's no way around that. And so, but with the pads and this, I'm leaning the way I would on my arm, but I'm not leaning hard on it because I'm on a yoga pad. So I don't have that. If it gets a little sore, I have a second keyboard that I've also plugged in, and another mini one that I can stretch my arm out and use that for a little bit, and then come back to the vertical. And between those two things, I just switch around, Oh, that's right. That's not what that is. I'm trying to remember, like, this is what happens when I'm like, I'll touch this shit for a week. So hopefully we'll be able to get this done, and then you'll be stuck figuring out how to like model all this, right?
I will try my best. Yeah, I keep on saying that on stream as I'm like modeling and stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna try my best to like properly, like, I don't know, give it justice, because this is really fun sketches and like really fun character design stuff. I really like. Yeah, I really don't want my characters to fall flat, and you've been doing such an awesome job, like, to make that happen, and I appreciate that a lot. And so,
yeah, it's always easy to be like, I want it to look like this, and that, but then you have to like also continue that philosophy or something. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I drew some chunky shapes, but then you have to then get it there too. You know what I mean? Like, and it's I've seen even like super pro 3D modelers. Like the craziest stuff was when I was on like Spyro and Crash, and I would see the modelers just take stuff and like, most 9 times out of 10 they nail it first bat because they've been doing it for so long. But when there is an issue, watching the art director like work with them, like how to get there and shit, it's always like fun to watch. So it's always iterative, at any skill level. But when you have properly, like, when you are, like, weighting shapes in 3D and stuff, I just always feel like you've done half the rigging's job. right? Like when you have really thin characters and stuff like that, like I want to say like a cheap EverQuest clone kind of thing, right? Right? You feel like animations and textures have to do the heavy lifting. But when you
Yeah.
have properly weighted shapes, you really can get away with almost no textures. You know what I mean? Like you ever see that? That's why that's why you can do those like cleanly hand painted textures and like a Crash or a Spyro or something. It's not because they couldn't add more complicated things. Is that when you have those shapes, it's just the shapes read enough. You don't have to add a ton of shit to it.
That's true. Yeah, like having just really fun, clean shape language and everything. Yeah, it really does just draw out the character so much. Where, yeah, you don't have to have like overly complicated texturing. And I have a feeling that's probably going to be the case here, where a lot of it's going to be very more standard colors when we get a coloration going, but have like maybe the subtle roughness value shiftness of like, okay, how glossy to not glossy something is, but even that's going to be pretty subtle. I can imagine. Yeah. There's just so much you can do with just shape language alone, and yeah, that's like the real hard thing for people to get, I think, is just getting really clean shape and fun shape language that kind of makes the character read well and feel unique as well. Yeah.
When I was younger, when I say younger, I mean like in the 3rd and 4th grade. Like I was really drawn to like the Garfield comic strip, not because of the humor or anything like that. I could care less. It was just the dude would draw like everything had a real shape to it. Like the cups and the spoons had like a design to it. I'm like, they just feel different. And I gotta tell you, growing up in a hillbilly town in 1986, 87, and telling folks that the spoons feel different in the Garfield comic strip. You know what I mean? Like the looks you'd get from people was just, I didn't ever talk to anyone who knew what the hell I was talking about.
Spoons feel different.
Until high school, really. Even like my junior high art teacher, she knew what I was talking about, but because I was into like cartoons, no matter what, even if it was like, oh, draw a still life, I wanted to draw the Garfield's cartoon version of the still life. I had no interest in drawing the realistic version, you know, like so she would just reject anything I did as just outright buffoonery, just like it's just so childish. I'm like, well, I'm a child, like, you know, but last I checked, adults were drawing this stuff. I don't think little kids are doing it unless I can, you know, so like maybe there's something to, yeah, it really wasn't until like those 90s waves of Disney films kind of took off, like The Little Mermaid and the Aladdin and stuff, Beauty and the Beast, until like that's when like this sort of stuff got a little bit of credibility in people's eyes, like in the mainstream, you know, like adults could be like, maybe you could work for Disney. And I'm like, oh, great. You know, like that's my freaking dream. So why would you want to work for Disney? And I'm like, well, first off, I don't do whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not animating, man. Like that's so hard, you know, like it's so hard. Yeah, like I knew what animation was and I knew how long it took. Because, I mean, a lot of different ways, like that info was out there. Long story short, you know. But like to spend, what, 3 years on like 3 minutes, you know, sometimes these folks would spend, you know, like, insane. Yeah, I don't, like, are you, what are we doing here? Like,
I could see someone that focuses on like comic book and concept art probably being really good at like storyboarding though, like to not frame to frame but like scene to scene kind of composition kind of thing, because that feels very comic booky other than just like the panel size and that kind of thing. I can see how that would translate.
guess I mean with storyboards, like the whole thing with that, especially these days, is just everything is so, there's just an ingrained culture with telling stories and how to tell stories
right
now, you know, like there really is a groupthink mentality on how to tell stories, and best use practices is sort of like taken over from just what is narratively interesting.
I see. Yeah.
And so let me give you an example. Like, go look at every, Young Justice-esque DC style cartoon and avatars, airbenders, and they're all sort of laid out the same, right?
Mm.
And then if you look at something like Primal, which is just totally, or Samurai Jack, totally different, right? They're not using those best practices.
I see.
So I unfortunately have this like independent rebel streak in me where I'm like, I don't want to fucking be part of that machine, man. Like that machine will make me worse. Every time I've joined a machine, right? Like some system that was like, here's how you do it, Rob. Like it just always ends up making me like I don't feel like I'm the kind of artist that thrives under those environments. It has nothing to do with the ability to draw or create like they do. I can. It's just there's a thought process, and I think that thought process was won out by the people who think a certain way. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like they think a certain way, and they won the thinking battle in Hollywood. So now everyone has to do it their way. And that's why that's why so much, not everything, but so much of it looks the same. And so, when you do see something that runs its own course or its own pack, like its own, like who was going to sit down and make a Smash Brothers, right? Who's going to do that? Like, especially like in 97, who's going to make a real non-violent fighting game? Think about that. Like how fighting is at the time. I mean, we're at Mortal Kombat 3 something 4.
Yeah.
Like we're at Soul Calibur, Tekken, Mortal Killer Instincts are out and
That's
Gold
true.
and shit, and like Bushido Blades out, and Nintendo's like, we want to make something where there's no blood and you kind of never die. And matter of fact, even if you get knocked off, you're just going to keep coming back. I still don't know how it fully works out. I just know I can keep coming back. I can't. I have no idea how that works, to this day. But I just think about, like, people, I think they think this. So let me finish what I was saying. So when I think about animation, like how it's told, like if I could somehow go back and work on like a 90s cartoon,
yeah,
there would be enough variety. There was like Tix and Bobby's Worlds and Rocco's Modern Lives and Duckman's and Beavis and Butthead. There was such a variety of different things. But now it's like, oh, you go to LA or Pasadena, you want to get into storyboards, you better go take YouTube guy's storyboarding class, who works at DreamWorks during the week, and on the weekend is telling everyone why. I mean, like, and there's all these. Every like storyboard artist is now like a parkour stunt person in their apartment, right? Like I gotta animate myself doing stunts, and it's like, man, nobody was doing their own stunts when they were like when Steranko was laying out the storyboards for Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. He wasn't doing stunts in his apartment, or his house. Like it's not, but that's just kind of the way it's gotten. It's just gotten so competitive, and so
yeah,
there's such a volume of it.
I don't know. Go ahead.
No.
I feel like maybe there is a bit of anti-conformity of like me wanting to stay indie rather than kind of like being into a larger company again. Like it was cool for a time to be able to work on Smash, but I feel like in that brief time and everything, I just felt like I just really wanted to make my own characters that had their own movesets and everything. I just like being able to have the creative freedom. It just feels so squelched when you're in a larger company where you're not the designer or something, or
even when you want to present an idea and it doesn't conform to how they think. You're not even like fighting the ability to do something. You're fighting the ability for them to get their head around how you think.
Right.
And it's like I mean I've been in real positive places, I've been in real negative places. Even the most positive places, there's always the house artists, right? The best ones. And It's like, you got to like find a way to do something and present your ideas in a way that still matches what they're doing to some extent, so that it doesn't blow the whole project off the face of the water too, right? Like there has to be some kind of like universal, just to tie the whole game or project together. I get it.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just one of those cats who's just never been. I say I'm not fast, and I think other artists would go, "No, man, you're faster than blah 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 blah," and I'm like, I don't see it. Like, if that's true, I'm not seeing it, nor do I feel it. I don't feel fast as what I do, But I do feel like I was listening to, who Matt Reeves is, the director.
Matt Reeves. It sounds familiar. Yes. Okay.
He just did the new Batman movie, and he did like the last two Planet of the Apes films. He co-wrote, and directed them. He was on an interview with it's a podcast called The Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith. And Jeff's a cool dude. And he was talking about, he started working on this Batman script like in 2016. It takes like 5 years to get out. 4 if you discount the COVID delay, right? So it's still a 4-year process. And he's like, that's incredibly long for that to happen. It's a screenwriting podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt goes, yeah, my process isn't efficient. Like, it's not an efficient process, but it builds a result. And what they're buying is the result. Are you buying efficiency? Then don't hire me.
Sure.
Are you buying the result? But that's not to say he's sitting around not working.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And being like one of those cats who's just burning through a budget because, it might take forever. Like, not that at all. But that he has a method. And I started thinking about that. Like, I think that's where I fall in now. I've been doing it long enough to know, like, I have a method, and like there's no point. You've seen, like, I've been like, like that will take me a little bit longer, or I think it wouldn't. But I don't think so far, man, I've ever been like turning stuff in and you're like, why the fuck did I talk to this dude? Like, this guy's dragging us down. Like, this has gotten worse. Rob's making the project worse, It's like there is a method to how I think, and I've had to, like, as an artist, you always have to get in touch with how you create. Yeah. Be productive, but also know when to, like, step back and do the writer's thing. Because writers love to do this, like to step back and, like, not work. Like, I need to let it think. And there are times, man, where I'm like, I'll go do something way different. Like, I was painting flowers last week. My friend's like, hey, man, you got stuff to do? I'm like, I do. But I can't solve it right now just working on it.
Right.
I know I'm working on it, and working on it isn't solving this problem. There's something back here. And so all I'm doing now is making it worse.
Yeah, I get that. It's like making something before the design decisions have been fully fleshed out kind of deal.
Right.
And it's like, if I work on it, then I have to, like, backtrack anyway. So I might as well just, like, think it through. Yeah.
So is there something else I can do? You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I got this other stuff that I've been trying to figure out how to do, and so I'll go and work on that for a bit. And I'm certain within a day or two I'll solve that problem. But we live in such a crazy... we overproduce. I mean, you've seen the productivity rates, and, like, they're like, the productivity is crazy, but people just don't make any money. You're like, yeah, that's by design. So, like, when I started working in t-shirts in 2005, and when I say t-shirts, I don't mean like designed by tees where anyone can just conjure up like a traced fox with a teardrop and some prisms and shit and make money. I mean like licensed apparel for sale at every retail store, mall, whatever, right? So like when I started working in that, I had no idea about fashion. I didn't care. It was just a place to use I just want to use Photoshop and create all day. So they needed someone who could draw, because a lot of these cats don't draw. So, but what I quickly found, what they would tell me is, hey, you got to be able to produce 1 t-shirt a day. And I was like, ooh, man, like that's tough. And it was, to get something complete was tough, to get 1 a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's 2005. By the time I get out of t-shirts, man, I mean, the complicated stuff, it's 4 a day. And the not complicated stuff, I'm telling you, I'm doing anywhere between 12 and 20 a day.
Wow.
And they haven't
Wow.
sold any more spots. It's for the same spots at Walmart's, at Old Navy's, at Hot Topics. You know what I mean?
They just want a lot more variation or something?
They just want options. Yeah, the people in charge don't want to make decisions and get held accountable to decisions, so they just want to see one of everything that could possibly be seen.
It's just going to have no quality, then.
Have you seen T-shirts in the major retail stores? They've sort of become... we got the standard Captain America logo, Captain America shield, you know what I mean? Every now and then you get one kind of interesting thing, but it's mostly like a retro piece right now. And I guarantee you there was 250 shirts that they showed, and there was some creative shit in there, and they never went with it. And so what happened was a lot of my designs, I found out how to do the stuff that would get picked, but a lot of the creative stuff I was working on my own time was really cool. And they would just go, this is cool, but we can't sell, we don't feel we could sell 50,000 of these or 60,000 of these, so it's not going to happen. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not making, like, what do you call it, like residuals on this stuff, or what is that, royalties? I'm not making royalties. So if I'm just making shit stuff all the time, and I'm not making a whole lot more money, what's the point? I'm trying to figure this one out. And I that's why I always, like, when I see an indie studio, I'm not saying you guys, but say like yourselves.
Sure.
When I see an indie group start up and they start saying things like, oh, we just got to get this done because it needs to get out by so-and-so. I'm like, according to who? Like, to pay your mortgage? Because if it's paying your mortgage, there's easier ways to pay your mortgage than making a video game. You know what I mean?
All shouldn't be in games.
Yeah, this is not the easiest way to do it.
No.
You know what I mean? There's easier ways to make money. Like, I don't know if people are aware. There's plenty of bullshit to buy. Like, go to the Steam store and just type in bullshit, and it'll all come up. Rows of it, good sales, dude. Tons of, you know what I mean? But like, you know, and there's always talented games too. There's always some like crazy, some owlboy like / genius piece of work that someone spent way too much time on. But you know why? And not all of them take 10 years to make, but you know, like that, I guarantee you that first Shovel Knight took way longer than people thought at Way Forward to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now everyone's like, oh, I'll just make an NES style game. It'll get done fast. It's like, that's not what they did. I guarantee it. You know, like. But I trying to get an NES style game. I remember, you know, I was working with this video game magazine studio that wanted to make a video game, and dude put together some capital to build a demo. And, you know, he said, we need to get someone to build our demo. And I was like, Way Forward had made the Shantae games. I'm like, talk to them. And he was friends with Matt Bozon and them. So they did, and they quoted us for the demo, and they were going to make the demo, but they wanted to make it like an NES style game. And I'm like, yes, like that. And this is before, you know, Shovel Knight. And this dude could not get his head around that idea. You know? But that's old. It needs to look new. And I'm like, not for your budget. Like, this guy wanted some fully hand-drawn, like, Odin sphere looking thing. And I'm like, no. For $150,000, you're not making Odin. You know? Like, not even in like 2009, 2008's money, you know, like, no. But I guarantee you, Odin Sphere wasn't easy to do, even for those amazing artists, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I did like the way that, back to Shovel Knight and everything, I loved the fact that they were kind of bringing back that aesthetic was just so wonderful, and the fact that it was like a meaningful shift as well. The fact that you could play as different knights was super fun, just so you have like, you can go through the same levels but have different fighting mechanics, and all run through. I don't know. I really appreciated Shovel Knight for what it was, and just feeling that super clean retro vibe. And you could tell that they had a love for that, and I thought that was really fun. But yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I've always wanted to make like a racing game that looked like that looked like Ridge Racer 4, but looked like Final Fantasy 7, like a racing game. I have it all worked out too. Like I have a whole design document, but like I was like since like '97, I'm like I just want to race around Midgard more than anything in the world. Just like that's just why I just want to race there. Like and so like okay, and it's just one of those things where you're like,
that's funny.
it's never gonna happen in this fucking industry. You know what I mean? They'll fuck it up. They'll add carts or they'll fucking, you know what I mean? It'll be all serious and shit. And now, like, even if Square made something like that, they'd fucking probably turn into like a free-to-play nightmare. You know, like. So. But like, I'm glad that aesthetic has come back because indie studios, right? Like, have been able to pick it up. But even then, man, nothing's quick to do. Like there was a whole article someone had written, like, why don't we see more of these 3D games from indie studios? I'm like, because it's hard, man. Everyone's got to model and rig and animate. Like, it's just someone draws a couple pixels, and I have friends that they'll just draw and get like 7 frames of animation done, within the hour. You ain't getting that done in 3D. Like polygon checks and rigs, and maybe I broke the bones. I do hope AI does help like solve maybe some of those issues, like where you can just like auto rig a model and stuff, but I doubt it. I mean, I'm really not. I was super positive about like automated driving 7 years ago, and now I'm like, that'll never happen. Like it'll just drive us off cliffs, those computers.
I wonder, because I mean, we had we had Sora right on Smash Bros, and they did that kind of like crossover deal. I wonder if they would, like, I mean, as far as like driving around Midgard, like your idea that you had, I wonder if they maybe if Chaos Card blows up enough, but that's still not what you're talking about. You're talking about something a little bit different aesthetic, it sounds like, than what we're going with.
Yeah, I love that. It's that rainy night, the mist, the lights coming out, the diesel punk. It's not even steampunk. Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is, I think it's diesel punk. It's some weird blend between Blade Runner and like Chrono Trigger. Like it exists only unto itself. They've never replicated it. They took Final Fantasy VIII and took that aesthetic through 10, 10X, to that I call that J-pop sci-fi. Right? They've continued that. 9 has continued in various forms, like Crystal Chronicles and stuff. Not as much as you'd like, but they have continued it. The pure fantasy, right? Final Fantasy 3 remake on the DS is a great example of trying to, simplify, but it's still that fantasy thing. But 7's something where it's just like there's a whole thing there but again, what I love about the reason why I like the PSX rendering, but at that kind of, imagine like the scale of a full city in like Need for Speed Heat or something, right?
Okay.
But simplified design, pixelated, because the noise, the pixels because of the noise, the pixel texturing noise creates like film grain to me. Like you see more into it than it's really there. Like if you look at Ridge Racer 4 or you look at Vagrant Story, you're seeing into the pixels. Or Metal Gear Solid and stuff, And the minute those things got cleared up on the PlayStation 2, it was like, oh, this looks like dog shit. It's just everything's smooth. They had to add more painting to make it more, more and more detailed, right? And that added complexity. Yeah. But there's that noise, so there's this blend between low poly stuff and like atmospherics that I just think they're really well suited to one another. Let's check. Duplicate.
It's looking good so far. I think it's gonna be dope. I can't wait to model it.
So it's never perfect, but you know what I mean. You get close with art.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be exact anyway. Because like, if it was like a straight on, like if I was one of those like 3D artists that just like needed like, I need an exact 90-degree profile, then it'd be different. But like,
I wouldn't take that word. Like, you folks, because like there's never any precision. Is really like, that's an engineering issue. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, hey man, if I wanted to be a CAD artist, then I'd get into that because you know that's a trigonometry and algebraic equations. I know how to do all that stuff. I just forgot it because I don't want to do that. That's not art. That's engineering. Like,
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, I approximate so much, and of course I'll like, I don't know, I'll rein it in when I'm trying to like finally put it into game to make sure that like, okay, our small character isn't bigger than our tank, right? But if you know, that's like a later scaling problem. But like when I'm actually making the art, it's very approximation heavy.
Yeah, another game idea always, like I told you, I love racing games. Like in my head, I was like, I always wanted a game like Crazy Taxi, but you're delivering shit like in Kiki's. Like you got a broom. You know what I mean? Like, then you could do like, you know, you could fly through a city. Because flying's something to never get right. But if you had like the Crazy Taxi part, I think probably would work. Just shocking, these sort of things. They went away because games got too complicated. I think, and this isn't because I'm older, I do think though, like the scale of game, anything past the Dreamcast just hurt the industry. Like I love the 100-hour, you know, Final Fantasy 12 and Dragon Quest 11. I love it, but you can't justify to a studio to make a Soul Calibur for one now at that scale. You know. And I really wish you could, because those games have merit. You know what I mean? Like the 3DS and mobile was a better spot for that for a while, but I wonder with the Switch if that's even possible at a AA level anymore. You know, I think indie studios are doing it, but I'm just wondering about, when I say AA, I mean like CyberConnect 2. You know what I mean? Like those scale, like I guess Platinum at this point might be more AA than AAA because they're still using like 10-year-old engines and shit.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, you know.
I don't get it either. Like using your own proprietary engine. Well, I mean, I know back then, like a while back, I think even maybe 8 years ago or a little bit before that, some of the engines were like millions of dollars just to be able to use them. Let me block another troll online.
Did we get a sexy bot?
Yeah, a couple of them.
I love the sexy bots. Love them. Russia's, you know, they all went away when they invaded Ukraine and came back. Like, oh look, they picked back up.
Need a van real quick. Come on.
Yeah. That's ready. How long that take? Not so bad. Should be able to sketch this pretty quickly. But did you follow the Shenmue 3, was it? Kickstarter?
Shenmue 3.
3 or 4, I can't remember which one. I backed it, but you know when they a couple years, like 2 or 3 years ago, when they were like went to eat at E3, they were like, we're launching the new Shenmue. I think it was Shenmue 3. And like, you know, they made the game, but they made it all look like Unreal Engine 4, but their budget is incredibly small. And I'm like, for your budget, so it just ends up looking like generic. It's not good.
That's too bad.
And so,
yeah.
like, they should have just made it look like the Dreamcast, but at a giant scale. Like, pump the scale up with the limited polygon, but they wanted to do newer looking high fashion models. And it's like, you were better off keeping it in the style of the original game by adding better lighting engines, you know what I mean? And or more detail. Even then, I'd say forget the lighting, because unless you got a budget of $10 million or more, you're not really gonna be able to do anything sophisticated, you know, like balance slider, fake ray tracing, or anything like that. You have to, for that kind of game, it's like, just make it look like whatever was on the last game, but just, you know, bigger. And they did not do that, Dan. People were not happy. It's just like when they made was it Bloodstained? You know? And it was like, oh, you're gonna do a new Symphony of the Night game, but then they used all modern tech, and and it's like, just hand draw the damn frames, like, but give us like the next version of that. Had it existed on PlayStation 1 with no limitations, but just in that older style. You can't, I don't know, man, like, that's the one thing, like, I appreciate about Dragon Quest not straying away from their game design, much. Like, even when their budgets go up, they retain their original, like, gameplay for the most part.
Yeah, have you played any Dragon Quests before? Like recently?
I beat 11
months ago. Okay, yeah, it's good. I like them.
Yeah, it took me like a year to beat that game. Play so infrequently. I'm still trying to finish Valkyria Chronicles 1, 2, and 30 or whatever. I don't have the PSP version, but
okay.
Yeah. 4 is the one. I'm finishing 4. So but no, 11 was brilliant. The ending's great,
Yeah, such a good game series. Like, yeah, I like watching my buddy play a lot, since I'm like constantly just doing like development work stuff. So like, if I'm doing anything in the evening, like with the Chaos card and stuff, I'll just like hang out and watch him stream. just like even over Discord. He's kind of like my buddy who plays games pretty often. Just like, I'm just gonna watch you play games, so I'll have to buy them.
Yeah, there are games, like, if I want to support the developer, I'll buy it, but if I have no intention of playing. So I don't do too much of it these days. I tend to support indie games mostly.
Yeah.
But like Final Fantasy VII Remake, I refuse to play an RPG that isn't turn-based. I don't care how close you get. If I can't put the controller down and walk away, I'm not interested. So, but I do think the game is fun or cool looking. So like, I bought the game, and then I just watched it. There's a guy I follow, Mage Masher 22. He's British. When he plays games, it's dope. It's kind of like hanging out with your friend. So he's not like one of those like people putting on a personality on Twitch and shit. I can't much stand that. So, but yeah, I just let him play it. You know what I mean? And then I just, bought a ticket. I wish there was a way you could like support the developers with a streaming ticket. So we're like, they got some money, but you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like committed to spending $60 to support. So it's like, whatever.
I understand that. Yeah.
Because it's hard to tell my wife I bought a $60 game and I never intended to play it. It's just like, she gets it, but it's tough. But I did beat Dragon Quest.
I think I've purchased a few indie games that I just haven't really played, or even just like you were saying, like I just wanted to support them, like like $10 games though, like nothing substantial. Like there's even what was that game? It was kind of like a Viking Minecraft game that kind of came out maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago or something like that.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
So yeah, that came out. My buddies wanted to play it. I was like kind of mad, but like they were cool, and Copy Stain was publishing them, a little indie publisher, and I was like, okay, yeah, Valheim. Valheim is what I'm thinking of, and yeah, Valheim, and it is a cool game, but I maybe played it once or twice with my buddies, but I was just happy to support you know. Like,
well, my philosophy on it is like, even if it's a $60 game, how much is it to go see like a movie, even if it isn't new, right? Like, right? Like you're spending at least $20,
yes,
right, for 2 hours of content.
If it's just
so long as, so I figure as long as I play 4 hours of that game, then I got movie theater money out of it. You know, like, and that's being nice. That's being conservative. Like that's being, you know, I probably did way better.
Yeah, that's no candy.
So,
that's no popcorn.
Yeah. So like, if I spend $60 on a game, I only feel obligated to play at least 4 hours.
Yeah, I can see that.
know?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, just for some reason we have it in our head like we're somehow like, you know, wasting our time or money if we bought it and didn't like beat it. I'm like, you know how many games I never beat when I was a kid? All of them. Like it took me like I'm not good at games. My friends were good at games. I was good at like drawing the stuff in the game and creating my own levels, but playing them, I'm not good at games, man. Like it took me, I got the first NES Christmas of '85. My dad got it, right? Because he got a divorce and he was like, he was trying to like buy my love, right? So like,
I get that. Yeah,
it worked. But I didn't beat that game until 1988, dude. You know what I mean? It took me a long time. I mean, you go 3 years, but that's like, I remember it being like 10 years. You know, like it took a long time for me to defeat that game. And I know if my friends were like, even in school, like, you haven't beat that yet? I'm like, no. Why? I suck. You know? I wasn't able to start beating games until the point-and-click adventure games came out. And then role-playing games like Maniac Mansion, you know? Which is the first time I ever played a game where you could defeat it 100 different ways or even break the game. Like, you know, like, it's crazy to me.
That's funny.
But when Dragon Warrior, the first Dragon Quest comes out, I was like, finally, I'm like, oh, I can set the controller down and then come back. Brilliant, you know, like, and we somehow have taken that mechanic away because it's like, what? It's too easy. I don't understand people. You know, they're like, no. I'm on the Megavisions guys. They play a shitload of like board games and card games, right? Like Magic and board games, right? And we were on the podcast. I was talking about turn-based gaming, and they're like, I don't like taking a turn. You take a turn. I'm like, all right. So like in Magic, I just throw all my shit down, you know, or in poker, I just throw all the cards down and just take whatever I want, right? Like that's how that works. Or do we all take turns? You know, like, I mean, you take turns when you play Magic. No one has a problem in a Magic tournament letting the other person take their turn. You know, I don't understand how this won out, other than to say that like studios like Square decided to say, hey, we need to make like Grand Theft Auto money with Final Fantasy and RPGs. And I don't think chess is a Grand Theft Auto like community. You know? Like,
a little different.
You know, yeah, it's a little like to put it in context, like it'd be like looking at Smash Brothers and saying, how do we make it more like Madden? Because people, the numbers, they play more FIFA and Madden than Smash Brothers, and I don't think that's right. You know what I mean? Like those are two different genres. Like it's not the same audience.
Right.
Unrealistic. And when RPGs went to this thing where like they had to be more action oriented, unless, you know, turn based, like no turn based. I don't mean like some, I mean none. I don't know, bro. Like they lost me, you know?
Yeah.
Thank God for Dragon Quest, but like seriously.
For a while, I wasn't into turn-based games. Like I didn't really play Final Fantasy initially for quite a while, and I started having an appreciation for turn-based stuff. I did play Magic for a little while, and you had to like, you know, mana and all that stuff, and I've been playing recently again, but
yeah, my problem with cards is I just can't remember the cards. Like I enjoy it. Like one of my favorite movies is Rounders. I couldn't play cards. You know, when I say one of my favorite movies is Rounders, I mean I listen to that. I've been listening to Rounders at least 2 times a week for 20 years.
Oh, okay.
You know, so like I love the movie. I can't play cards. Like, do not take me to Vegas. I will lose. I cannot memorize the cards, you know. Same with card games. Like, I just can't. So, like, that's what bothered me when, like, the only other option with RPGs are, like, the collectible card games. Oh, it's like Final Fantasy, but you get cards. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm never playing this. You know? Like, so, like, I would just tell people, like, take your favorite genre that's super popular, I think is never going away, and just wait till the next generation of kids comes around and destroys it. Like, it will happen. like it'll happen to all of you. It happened to mascot games for the longest time. Remember how long it took Nintendo to make a proper mascot game? Like, they were afraid to. It took a long time to get to Galaxy after Sunshine blows up. You know what I mean? Like, a long time. And then again, I was like, are they ever going to make, like, a game like Mario World? And honestly, to this day, man, 3D Mario Land's great, but it's not like Super Mario 64, right? Like, it's not the same thing. I wonder.
Yeah.
That Bowser's Fury is the closest thing I've ever seen to it, because it's a little more open-ended, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, so what? It's gonna take 30 years, and they've never really made a proper sequel to Wave Race. Don't quote me, Blue Storm. That thing don't. You could play Wave Race with one hand. With Blue Storm, you could throw the controller. You know what I mean? That's possible. You know, play control's fucking horrible.
Oh man, I miss 64. I think it'd be fun. I don't know. I just like the mechanic of jumping into a picture. I thought that was so fun. And yeah. They should just make it again. Like, it's probably very similar to like Mario Odyssey, but instead of flying in a blimp, you just have a hub world of a castle or something.
Well, I thought the missed opportunity with that, man, would be to take the concept art and make the concept art you could jump into, even if it's just for like a little mini level. Take all the scraps of shit you got and be like, well, turn that into something. You know what I mean? And make the concept art stuff you could jump into and stuff too, you know? So you can take the stuff that usually goes into art books and then put it in game, you know?
Yeah, that'd be smart. Yeah.
I remember when the Wii came out, we were at a GameStop waiting to get my pre-order, you know? And I was living in San Diego, that's where I'm from. And it was near Sony Studios, right? And so I'm sitting here, and there's this guy who's like, I'm Mr. Sony, I work at Sony Studios. I'm like, all right, that's cool, man, you know? And so I was telling him about, you know, I loved Wind Waker. I'm one of the few guys who was applauding when that first trailer debuted on IGN. What was that shit they came? IGN, the thing you had to pay for? Prime or whatever it was called. Yeah, Plus, I don't know, whatever that shit was in 2001, right? So, but I told myself I love Wind Waker. I had two major gripes with it. You know, one being, it's weird how the whole planet takes place in a water world and you can't fish. I mean, it's like, it seems so weird that the best fishing mechanic of Ocarina doesn't exist in this game, and there's fucking water everywhere. Like, you know, like, it seems to me that there should be a secondary world you could go to, and you just go into water, right? Just come off the ship, and then there's, I don't know, man. It's weird how that didn't work out.
That'd make a lot of sense.
And then two, I'm like, you get this camera, and I'm like, I would just like to take photos of stuff, and then like there's portraits in all these homes. It'd be great if I could like put the photos I take into the portraits. And this dude was like, you have any idea how tough that would be? I'm like, well, it has memory cards. I mean, it can't be that. And he's like, well, you know, it's super hard from a memory, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, it's Nintendo. Like, they can make that magic happen. Like, I don't think it's that. I mean, I get what you're saying, but they can do that. Like, this 2006, you know, like, this is, I don't know, even in 2001 they could have done that. Like, because, like, they had the Game Boy camera, the Game Boy Color camera that was supposed to be, you were supposed to be able to take your picture and put it into Square games like GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, and they had to take it out because in beta, people were just photographing their genitalia and sticking it in game, you know, like. So I'm like, look, if they figured that technology, and I knew about that then, they could do this, you know, and that's just taking photos of stuff in game, like, while I'm going on my adventures. Like, I've never understood why like on MMOs like Warcraft or whatever, why they don't just have a class like an adventurer's class where you just take photos and journals and stuff, and like, you know, you can go on like a sightseeing, so you can go into any like you could walk into people's raids, but you wouldn't be able to affect any of their outcome, right? Maybe they wouldn't even be able to see you, or they could see like a ghost or you, but you'd be adventuring and you could have a checklist of stuff to photograph, and you know what I mean? Like capture a 50-man raid, defeating blah 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 blah. So I could just play something non-violent and non-competitive, but I could see all the cool worlds that they built. You know what I mean? And experience what's going on and be engaged, but I don't really feel like ever playing the game. And like, I know that sounds weird, but like, it's just like I don't know, there's this thing like on the Pilot Wing 64, you know, where you could just like, it was a non-aggressive way of playing, an exploratory way of playing that is not like a walking somewhere. You are doing things, you're flying around, you're taking photos, but you're not like trying to like beat a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
As I work on a cart designed to beat people up in a competitive multiplayer. The irony is not lost upon me.
I've always been a sucker for multiplayer, like competitive games. I just love it. Yeah. Oh, the troll's back. Let's see. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just it kind of sucks because like I love developing games, but I also like being really competitive in games, and the only way to be competitive is playing them a lot. So I'm like, if I'm gonna play, I want to win. I want to do well at it. But yeah, I just don't really have time to be well at it. So I usually, when I play competitive games, I usually try to like off the wall strategies, just that like usually atypical non-meta ways of playing or fighting or something that just kind of throws people off because I have less experience playing the game. And it works pretty often, but
well, it probably just has something to do with my personality type, because like it's like going to a party. I'll go to a party, maybe not during COVID, but like before I'll go to a party. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to dance around anyone. I don't want to engage. I just want to observe the party.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the ambiance, and then leave. I had a good time, you know? So like there's a part of that in me. It was just very observatory, you know? And like engaging with people makes it worse sometimes. But there's just these other smaller scale games. I just like I think about, you know, when you think about the racing games of the 32-bit era, you know, 8 tracks, blah 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 blah, you know, man, just trying to convince a publisher to make that these days. They're like, nope, not enough. It's every character Warner Brothers ever had in a game or it can't be made. Like, okay, you know. I don't know if that's good for gaming, you know.
Yeah, I do wonder like how many characters that I would need to like make it feel good enough to like put out on the market, you know, like for even this and stuff like that. At least I'm not, you know, held up by publishers and like IPs and everything, and like, yeah, things aren't so stuffy. It's basically just me funding stuff and being like, yeah, that one too.
How many jobs can you work until you're like, well, I'm not making any of this money back ever?
We'll see. I hope something. I just love making stuff and being creative. So I mean, you know, I just even if I feel like even if I had a failed game, I had a lot of fun making it and being, having creative freedom and still keeping sharp on my 3D skills. So I don't see it as a loss. I think all the things we're doing here is fun and it's a win to me, regardless of the sales. Like, I would love to have nice sales, but I don't know. Yeah. Having fun along the way is important to me.
I just think, like, if the scale of the game never goes beyond sort of a 32-bit thing, right? Then, like, I think it's always going to be somewhat responsible. I mean, granted, those games were hard to make at the time for them, but with automation, you know what I mean, and just the knowledge base we have now, like, that eliminates 9 out of 10 of their problems. Like, you don't have to make an engine from scratch every time you make a game.
Exactly.
You don't have to figure out a Z cam. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to figure out a lot of you really don't have memory stations.
There are so many tools now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And with AI, you don't even need a concept artist. It just does all the work for you. You just type in kick-ass concept. I typed in Batman, and the fucking thing produced, I don't even know what it is. I couldn't even tell you. I tried them all. I got into the Dolly, I got Midjourney, I got all of them, Wamba. Okay. I tried them all. I'm like, let me see what they can do.
Yeah.
Not much, bro. I break it pretty fast. Like I am the QA's nightmare. I found that out a long time ago. I'll break anything. Like, just like when we go to E3, let me play your game. It'll break. Watch what happens. The Megavisions guys found that out, but just watch me play it. Boom, broke. Ha! Like, I'll break your AI system. It's pretty easy. Like, because as an artist, like, I'm always having to, like, I can't just default. Here's the thing with art, man. You got to learn at a professional level. At a professional level, you can't make the thing that's most obvious. That's what every other artist is going to turn in. So take your first 5 things you would do and put them over there for if no one else arrives at them, but chances are 15 other artists are all arriving at the first 5 things. So you have to then go, what's next? What's beyond that? What's beyond that? What's beyond that? What's beyond, but still meets the brief. And I don't know how an AI system does that. Yeah. Like, it's not magic. AI is not like, it's just it's not like, oh, I can just talk to this AI about how great the Dragon Quest anime is today. Like, when it can do that, then I guess we'll be in the ballpark, but you can't have like real conversations with these systems, like they're based around putting in a bunch of information and it looks through and tries to find like things. Like, that's not how actual art's made. It's not by taking all the things you love and bashing it into something else. Like, I know you may feel that way, but that's actually how you end up with the generic. That's how you end up with the direct-to-DVD version of whatever you're working on. Right? Where it goes, when you got those, like, it's just like Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's like the the sailors of the southern seas, and it's all hot chicks looking like Jack Sparrow. Like, that's how that got made. Like, yeah, but it just doesn't work that way. And there's no AI for, like, fun. Like, I just think right now with these things, it's fun to, like, tell the computer to do something and then it looks horrible. But I always think, the first time I saw anyone doing that online was 2002-ish, when there was like those hot or not sites, and that eventually became Facebook. So I wonder what these will turn into. We made the AI thing turn out making some ridiculously dumb thing, and it was funny. And then 15 years later, it's trying to take over the Capitol. Like, you just don't know, bro. Like, I could never have explained how all this stuff would lead to insurrection 20 years ago, but here we are, like, what if Mode 7 was responsible for 9/11? I mean, it'd be crazy. Like, just a harmless feature on it. Let it rot,
I'm trying to think. What was the what was the Terminator? What was that company? called?
Cyberdyne.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Who
And
knows?
then they made Skynet.
Yeah. Skynet. Yep.
Skynet was the system, but the company was Cyberdyne.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
I think I inverted that. I think I did. My dyslexic side of me comes out. I'm like, did I go the right way? I did not. This needs to go in like that. How does that work? You know, I'm just gonna let you like pretend. It's more of a reference because it's like I need to like bend it in, but then all you would see is a round nub. That's basically it. Is there anything I'm missing here?
Hmm.
And the handle.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, we got the handle. We have the kind of smaller steering wheel bit. I was that'd be kind of funny if the steering wheel was kind of like a big gear steering wheel, but I don't think that might read as more of like
no one's even gonna see it.
Yeah, he'll be hiding it so much.
In his hands. He's got those big gloves, so I didn't want to put a lot of effort into the
That's true.
steering wheel because his gloves are gonna be on it. It's just like whatever fits in the hands, more or less. You know?
That's a good point. I wouldn't even model like the bottom part of their bodies if they weren't like, but like they're actually gonna have like a sequence where they jump into their cart and everything when you choose them.
You poor guy.
So I was just
Can't you just do the Mario Kart thing where it's just like a CG rendered face and they go yay? And jump.
I probably could have. I probably should
you
just
may
like
be overthinking that. Like
I probably should just not have that beginning sequence and just always have them in their cart. They're just like they just pump their fist when you pick them and something.
yeah, do that.
You know,
that's what they did on Crash Team Racing on the 64. You know, like, and then you know, hey man, you get some real money, then we'll model that bottom half. But,
just delete their legs.
yeah.
I can just make like I can make like a black plane that just shows like abyss inside the chassis. You know, nothing's there. Yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, I like that kind of like beveled, like back booster thing. It just feels powerful and fun. Pretty streamlined, and like.
You know who Bob Lazar is?
Who?
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar. No, I do not.
Yeah, he's this guy in the '89. Went on Las Vegas radio and claimed to work at this place called S4 outside of Area 51, like UFOs and stuff. And, you know, he claimed to get the gig because, and this is true, he actually shoved a jet engine into like his Honda and caught the attention of one of the scientists that worked on nuclear weapons back in the 40s. And so I always think like Bob Lazar actually built a Batmobile out of a Honda. So like when anytime I see a jet engine in a car, I'm like, it's Lazar. This is real nerdy guy. I mean, believe me, looks just like a real classic nerd. You know, out in the desert with a rocket engine like that. Into a Honda Civic.
We're just making the kid version of that. That's all we're doing.
Yes, we are. The German, my uncle bought one of those German like build-a-cars back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought one of those and built it. He was like, look, I built the car. And I'm like, I'm not getting in that. There's no fucking way.
Yeah, how long is it gonna last? Oh my gosh.
You know, it actually will win a long time. It's just, you know, he did it well, but I don't trust. I barely trust. Yeah, I mean, the cars we're buying now are getting recalled. Who knows if you...
Yeah.
he messed up turkey dinner once, you know, for Thanksgiving, and so
Are you sure you can make a car? You overcooked the turkey.
Yeah. yeah.
Attention to detail a little bit off a little bit.
You remember Christmas Vacation? It was like that kind of turkey. Like, the Sahara Desert just appeared out of the turkey.
Just dry, overcooked.
Yeah.
Oh,
just how you like it, right? Like gritty kitty litter.
That's how you do it.
All right, so then we'll come down here. What I like to do is take the immersion. Oh, sorry, we'll merge the shadows. Merge this down. And then we'll take that. I usually duplicate it 30%.
But yeah, I loved your idea of because I was so kind of caught up on like having, okay, Taco will have a tool belt and like the like, I don't know, the wrench that he uses to like fix up his vehicle, like for that one animation, you need to see like everything. But I think your whole like idea of the Looney Tunes, you know, pocket dimension basically, being able to just pull that out rather than, because yeah, I think you're right about like,
dude. You know, like Smash Bros doesn't take itself serious. You're not seeing all the inventory. Shit just appears out of nowhere and whacks it, dude.
It does. Yeah.
Just go that route, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Well, now I see two eyes in their mouth. That's not good.
Were you doing like back blinkers or something?
Yeah, I was like, maybe I could put something, but then I'm like, it's one extra thing that doesn't really. I start seeing faces, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know, let's see a face.
It's easy to do, even if you don't mean to. I remember I made a like back jetpack on this guy, and it looked like just like a face. And I'm like, crap.
All right, well, unless I miss anything, that's ready to send to you, buddy. That's what I would do.
Awesome. Heck yeah, let's see. Any... Okay, so around the booster, you have like these kind of pipe pieces that also kind of pop out through the perimeter of the wheel. Let me see if there's anything I can... above the wheel, that little circle above the wheel, is that like a reflector?
It's just going
kind of
in. No, that's what I was saying. Like, that's why I prefer to keep the cable there, even though it's not perspectively accurate.
Oh, okay.
It bends in. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
if I drew the cable so you could tell those are the cables.
Yes.
You know?
Okay.
I'm just gonna take it back there so you don't forget, but it's supposed to bend in. You know?
Yeah, I can totally read that now. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Awesome. All right, that was awesome. Yeah, kind of have a feel of how the bottom is too. Can add the little spine a little bit. Looks good, and yeah, those the glass with electric. I love that you can see the conversion of electricity. I'm already like planned out some like VFX for that little tube on the sides.
Oh, right here.
The little side bit, yeah, that, and
it's
then
a nice
also
2D effect. Like, cool, like
just a cool like lightning thing, and as he's drifting, it'll go like more intense, you know. You'll see that side, and it'll be dope. And then we'll do something similar, and then those front has the little coil pieces.
Yeah, when he revs up, it'll be like in that Batman movie when he's like going to chase the penguins. It's all sparking and shit. People are like, this guy's way too intense for this cartoon game. You know?
I love this stuff, man. Thank you so much. These look great.
Great. So tomorrow I'm gonna work on color. You know. So if you want to stream, or if not, I can just work whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. So yeah, let's plan on that. Thanks, man. Yeah, let's end the stream here and everything. But yeah, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate seeing this and like showing off some of the pipeline. It's been awesome.
Thank